Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome back to our class on Tehillim. We're moving along. We're already holding by Pei Daled number 84. It's more than halfway through, and I could not think of a more Yearning a one that is more on the spot today. We're holding over here by Shivasa B'Tammuz, the very beginning of the 3 weeks. The time that we know we begin thinking about the loss of the Beis HaMikdash, the first one and the second one, and really all of the tragedies that befell Klal Yisrael, all of these hundreds and thousands of years. And we think about our gullus, our exile that we find ourselves in. And this particular Tehillim, Pei Daled number 84, it hones in on all of these ideas. So we're going to start with the introduction of Rabbi Foyer, which we always do when we see a new Tehillim. And he says over here the following, that number one, a lot of the Tehillim that we were saying up until this point, they were all by the prophet Asaf. And it ends now at this point, and we're going into Tehillim that is written by the sons of Korach, which itself is an amazing thing. Korach that we just had in the Parsha only a few weeks ago. So he and his children and Bnei Ruvain, the tribe of Ruvain that got caught up together with him, they fought Moshe Rabbeinu, and they were deemed to failure, and they ended up going down. The mouth of the ground opened up and swallowed them alive, and it seemed to be that they died. However, the sons of Korach, at that last moment, they ended up doing tshuva. And they called out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they apologized for their behavior. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a little cleft in the rock, and from that cleft that was and when they were going down, they were able to save themselves, crawl back to life. And the children of Korach ended up writing Tehillim. They're together with David HaMelech, who is the prince of Klal Yisrael, the king of the Jewish people, who expresses from the deepest places in his neshama the beautiful Tehillim to Hashem. Even the sons of Korach, because of the tshuva that they did, they were able to express the deepest ideas from their neshamas to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well, which is just a CHIZUK for anyone, that you're never a lost cause. No matter what a person does, no matter how low they fall, I mean, you don't fall much lower than when the earth opens up and you are heading straight down to oblivion. But even in that downward spiral that a person is going through, they could always end up doing tshuva and picking themselves back up. I'm sure that I told over this story. I was just reminded yesterday because someone told me about a tragic story about a young lawyer, youngish lawyer that took his life recently here in Los Angeles. And it reminded me of years ago, it must be, I think, over 10 years ago perhaps, that I was asked to officiate at a funeral of a young man that killed himself. Rahman al-Islan. Lo aleinu, nobody should ever know such things. And the worst of it all was that he had jumped off of the Golden Gate Bridge to take his life. Now it was a shocking thing. I didn't know the family. I met them before the Levaya, before the funeral, and we spoke about their son and his obvious struggles that he went through in life that brought him to that point where he can actually take his own life. And they mentioned to me that it was not an uncommon place for people to take their lives. So I ended up looking up online about the Golden State Bridge and Golden Gate Bridge and suicides, and I found it's true. There were who knows how many numbers, tens, hundreds of people that did it. But fortunately or unfortunately, not everybody always succeeded in their attempt to plunge to their death at the hands of the Golden Gate Bridge. And that means that you're flying hundreds of feet through the air, you're hitting the water at breakneck speed, and you break your neck, Rahman al-Islam, but you don't die. And there were certain people that survived this harrowing experience. So they asked one of the people who tried to take his life and survived, I think was paraplegic afterwards, they asked him, what were you thinking about as you were going down. Normally a person plunges to their death, that's the end. But this guy lived. So they asked him, what were you thinking about as you were plunging towards what you thought was your death? And he said, the first thought in my mind was, why did I jump? That was the first thought. He jumped, why did I do it? Meaning that it's never as bad as a person thinks that it is. He got to a point in his mind where he decided it was so bad there's no other choice. But the first thought in his mind when he jumps is, why did I do what I was doing? And really you see from the sons of Korach, their sons, they were on their way down with their father, down with all the cronies of Korach. They're going to be forgotten forever. And yet, at that last moment, they called out to Hashem and they did tshuva. Which means, why did I do it? And tshuva means you can always go back and you can always return. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu always welcomes you into His loving embrace. And so, to have a Tehillim that is written by Bnei Korach, by the sons of Korach, 84, 85, 87 and 88 are all ascribed to the children of Korach. That means we're talking about people that according to the laws of nature, should not be around. But tshuva, which is above the laws of nature, allows you to remain around. And that's really, we have to think about this. It's a tainus. It's a fast day today. And the Rambam writes that the ikr, the main part of a tainus, is not the tainus itself. It's the tshuva that a person is going to do on this day. When we're not eating, and when we're not drinking, and when we are focusing in on our personal selves and where we can improve, so then the day of a tainus of a fast is for a person to introspect and be misbainin and to start doing tshuva for the things that we need to, especially now during this time of the year. So that's the beginning that he writes. And then he says over here that if you look in the Radak, in his commentary here in Tehillim, he writes that David HaMelech is this Tehillim was inspired by David's experiences when he fled from Shaul. Shaul Shaul HaMelech was the king, was his father-in-law who had it out for him, and he sought refuge in the land of the Plishtim. And while he was there, while David HaMelech was on this foreign soil, and he was far removed from the spiritual centers of Eretz Yisrael, he had one yearning and one yearning only, and that was he wanted to return to the Aron Hashem, the Holy Ark, and to the Mizbeach and to the altar. And with this particular psalm, David captures the innermost longing of the lonely exiles of all future generations. Which means that, as we'll see in the Mefarshim today, that no matter where the exile takes a Jew, so we have to make sure that we don't get lost in the clutches of the exile itself, but rather we are in tune with the innermost yearnings that we have inside of ourselves, and we're always looking to get back to where Klal Yisrael once was in our glory. When there was a Beis HaMikdash, when there was a Mishkan, when there was Kohanim and Leviim doing their Avodah, their service in the Beis HaMikdash, when all of Klal Yisrael gathered 3 times a year, Sukkot and Pesach and Shavuos, in the Shloisha Regalim, in Yerushalayim, in the Beis HaMikdash, when you did a sin and you could bring a korban, the world was a different world. The Beis HaMikdash was a different planet altogether. It was a different atmosphere. There were miracles, 10 open miracles happening in the Beis HaMikdash all of the time. When you walked into the Beis HaMikdash, immediately you were struck. You were struck with nisim, with miracles. You were struck with Shechina. The Mishkan is a language of Shechina. That means that the Shechina was dwelling inside the Mishkan, and it eventually dwelled inside the Beis HaMikdash as well. When you live in Galus, when you live outside of a world of the Mikdash, you live outside a world of Klal Yisrael being in Eretz Yisrael the way it's supposed to be. So it's very natural that a person gets cut off from those feelings of the Shechina, from those feelings of the Kedusha. But David HaMelech is teaching us that although that I was far away, I was in the land of the Plishtim, I was far from Eretz Yisrael, far from the Mishkan, far from the Mizbeach, but my ikar, my main yearning in life, was to bring myself back to the Rebbeinu Shalom, back to the place where I belong. And this is a symbol of what every Jew is going to have to say to themselves in all of the generations that have come since then, where we still are straggling around the gullus, the exile of the world, and where the nation of Klal Yisrael finds itself. And that means I'm not getting comfortable in the gullus. I'm not just throwing in the towel and being messiahish and despairing that we'll ever get out of here. On the other hand, I'm always thinking, what's going to be, how am I going to get, I want to get back to Yerushalayim. This is similar to the famous story that is told with the great French leader, Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon once was coming through the Jewish town, and it happened to be Tisha B'Av. And as he's walking through the Jewish quarters, he hears crying and weeping. And he says, what is all of that? And so his soldiers look inside, and they see inside the Beis Midrash, inside the Beis HaKnesses, inside the shul, the Jews are sitting on the floor and they are crying. So Napoleon was somewhat friendly apparently to the Jews. He couldn't understand, what are they crying about? So they went and they asked the Jews, what are you crying about? And they said, we're crying about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. So Napoleon said, didn't that happen thousands of years ago? And they said, yes. So they said, so then why are you still crying about something that happened thousands of years ago? And they told him the following words, that a nation that will cry about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, that was the representation of what our life was all about from 2,000 years ago, that is the nation that is going to be able to rebuild itself. And that's what we're saying over here. The nature of Klal Yisrael is, even though that we are in the gullus, in the exile, far away from where we belong, the yearning that the neshama and the heart that the Jew has is we want to get back. And therefore he writes, and we'll see this really in the Mefarshim, that there are many living creatures that have a powerful homing instinct. They know how to return. The birds fly south for the winter, and then they know how to come back all the way to where they came from. The salmon know how to swim up the stream during, I believe it's during the summertime. They swim and they go back from where they ended up, their birth took place. They know how to go back to the source of where they come from. Says David HaMelech, just like the bird has a homing device, just like there's other animals that know how to get back to where they came from, so too, it's the nature of Klal Yisrael that we have a homing device inside of ourselves as well. We know where we want to get back to. And the Jew is always traveling, trying to get back to the place where we come from, and that is Yerushalayim, that is the Beis HaMikdash, that is the essence of Klal Yisrael. This is why Rav Chaim Volozhiner writes in his commentary on Pirkei Avos that you should know that when the Avos HaKadoshim, when they went through their challenges in life and they overcame, they implanted inside of the DNA of every single one of us an everlasting reality that we too are connected to that glory of our forefathers. And he writes over there the idea, Avraham Avinu had a nisayon of lech lecha, go for yourself to that land, I'm going to show you, you have no idea where you're going, but just go. And Avraham Avinu went, and he went to Eretz Yisrael. And when he got to Eretz Yisrael, what does he end up finding out? There's a drought. There's no rain coming, and he gets exiled from Eretz Yisrael. But Avraham Avinu had this burning desire always to be in Eretz Yisrael. Says Rav Chaim Volozhiner, you should know that in every single Jew, he left it as our spiritual DNA, that you and I and every Jew, the most farthest in the world from Judaism, deep inside, embedded in their spiritual DNA, is a yearning and a calling for Eretz Yisrael. And this, says Rav Foyer, is what the Tehillim here is telling us. And that is that as the birds know how to go back to their nest, as we're going to see, so too the Jew knows how to return to his nest as well. And that's the longing and the yearning that we must have in our hearts to get back to Eretz Yisrael with a Beis HaMikdash, with a Mashiach the way it's supposed to be. That's the introduction. Now Rav Hirsch writes over here, if you look in the first pasuk, Lamnatseach, to the one who grants victory, Ala Gitis, on the wine pressing, Livnei Korach Mizmor, to the sons of Korach, is this particular song. Why is the words Gitis, the words wine pressing, what does that have to do with this Tehillim over here? So probably you'll remember, it's probably striking a memory from Tehillim number 8, that was only like 80 Tehillim ago. So Tehillim number 8 in the first pasuk also says Lamnatseach ala Gitis. This is a victory for the one who's the wine pressing. And over there it's a Mizmor LeDavid, it's David HaMelech's Tehillim. Rav Hirsch writes over there, what is this word, the gas, the wine pressing, what is it coming to teach us? When you look at a wine press, what do you see? You see the grapes go inside, and it looks like they're being destroyed. The press comes and it crushes them down, it bruises them, it destroys them. And if you pick off the press right now, all you're going to see is a bunch of mashed up grapes and skins and completely obliterated. But everybody knows that that's not the point of the wine press. Because from the wine press there is like a channel and there's a pipe, and as you crush down on the grapes, so you're squeezing out the juice, and the juice then is going out through that pipe, and it's gathering itself in some kind of a container, and from there you can either take grape juice, or you'll allow it to ferment in barrels, and you'll end up with very tasty wine. The wine press is not destroying the grapes. The wine press is bringing out the best that the grapes have to offer. It's bringing out the purest and the most succulent juices that you could imagine. Says Rav Hirsch, although that Gullus looks like it is harsh, and it looks like it is breaking us and bruising us and damaging us, and sometimes it even looks like it's destroying the Jewish people, all of that is true. But you have to know that Gullus, the exile, it's like a gitis, it's like a wine press. And it's crushing down on the Jew. It's squeezing down on the Jew to do what? To bring out the best that is in Klal Yisrael. And that means just as the wine press squeezes out the juice from the grapes, and you end up with Kiddush on Friday night, or you end up with a nice bottle of wine that you and your husband can enjoy on an anniversary, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu presses down on us because He wants to bring out the best that is in each and every one of us. And that is our emunah, and our bitachon, and our dedication to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and our lack of questioning Hashem for all the things that He has done, and why, even though that it's very confusing in the Gullus, the more that we will bring out the essence of who we are, the greater is going to be the advent of Gullus, and we will accomplish what we are supposed to, and then we can go back. Once the grapes are finished being pressed, you don't keep pressing them. You got everything out of there. Once Klal Yisrael has been pressed enough in Gullus, there's nothing left to press. Hashem, you brought out the best. And therefore it is up to us to start bringing out the best that we have to offer. Says Rav Hirsch that you should know that Klal Yisrael is filled with this yearning for the complete presence of Hashem and the opportunity to strive towards it in Hashem's sanctuary. That's what we're waiting for. We're not really happy in Gullus. We're not complacent. We're not comfortable. We're not supposed to get too comfortable in the Gullus. Like Yaakov Avinu said, "Im Lavan garti," I live with Lavan. Utarg mitzvah shemarti, and I guarded all of his mitzvah. Lo lamaditi mimaisav, I never learned from his evil ways. The language of garti, of that I lived with, is also a language of ger, I was a stranger. Yaakov Avinu was telling Klal Yisrael for all of time, when you find yourself in Gullus, nobody had a worse Gullus and exile than Yaakov when he had to live with his father-in-law Lavan for those 20 years. His father-in-law drove him crazy. He was the most wicked man of the generation, and he treated him in the most unruly of ways. But I made myself like a ger, like a stranger in his house, like a stranger in his land. I never allowed myself to get too comfortable. And as a result of that, I was able to keep all of the mitzvahs, and because I remained a stranger, I never became friendly with Lavan and all of his cronies. Therefore, lo lamadati mimaisav haroim, I never learned from his evil ways. And that is what we are supposed to do ourselves in the Gullus, in the exile of America that we find ourselves in. We can never get too comfortable, because once that we do, then we are lemadati mimaisav haroim. We will learn from the evil ways of the nation that is around us. We will admire the things that they have or that they do, or the way in which they live their lives. And really the nature of the Jew is, I'm always yearning, I'm always striving. I want to get back to where I belong, and that is in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh, when there's a Beis HaMikdash standing in its place. So I'm skipping now to Gimel over here, and in Gimel it says, Nichsefa v'gam kolsa, my soul yearns, it pines, nafshi, v'gam kolsa nafshi, l'chatzois Hashem, for the courtyards of Hashem. Libi ubisari yiranenu, my heart and my flesh will sing with joy, el kel chai, to the living God. So what is it? Is it your soul that is yearning and is pining? Or is it your heart and your body that is singing with joy? Which one is it? Is it spiritual or is it physical? Is your ruchnius what is yearning to get there? Or is it the gashmius, the physical, that's yearning to get there? So Rav Hirsch writes over here the following idea. Libi ubesari, my heart and my flesh, means that this spirit which emanates from there is Yerushalayim, which is where I want to get back to. Not only does it lift up my neshama, everybody knows when they go to Eretz Yisrael, there's ruchnius that's there. There's ruchnius that you cannot have in America. As hard as you're going to try, as much as you would like to get, everybody knows that a Shmoneh Esrei at the Kaisel is not like a Shmoneh Esrei at Makor HaChaim. As great as it is over here, not knocking it. But everybody knows a Shmoneh Esrei over there is a different world. Everybody knows that Shabbos in Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh, when you feel it setting in the air, and you feel the Kedusha, and you hear the siren, and you feel the radiance of Shabbos, the glory that is going on, and you look in the streets, thousands and thousands and thousands of people walking to and from shul, davening, and minyanim, the little kids, pure as angels. Everybody knows that's a different place to be. Yes, Tarzan is amazing. And yes, Baruch Hashem, the streets are pretty quiet over here on Shabbos these days if you're south of the boulevard. It's all true. And there's a lot of beautiful, pure faces walking around the streets also. But everybody knows the Kedusha of Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh. It's a different world altogether. Says Rav Hirsch that there's two things that are going on over here. There is the yearning that my neshama has to get back to that place where it will be able to experience the glory and the splendor of the ruchnius of what Yerushalayim offers to my neshama, but even my body, my lave, my heart, and my flesh, even that is invigorated with life and energy. And therefore it says, even though that I'm far away, I still sense from there the presence of Hashem, who lives and who gives life. And my body and my spirit both strive towards Him in blissful ecstasy. Which means, yes, over there, when we're going to get there, it's going to be a different world. But as a hope for all of us, a consolation prize, so to speak, that even where you are now, you can also experience closeness to Hashem. Even though that we're not in Eretz Yisrael, and even though that we're not in Yerushalayim of old with the Beis HaMikdash, and even though the world is a train wreck just waiting to happen, or maybe it happened already, even though all of that is true, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't limit my presence only to the Holy Land. It's more boiled, it's more expanded over there, it's much more, you can feel the presence on a higher level, that's true. But even over here, far away, in the Golas, in the exile, in America, I know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here. I can sense Him, I feel Him, and even with all of that I'm able to feel it here, I just imagine what it's going to be like when Yerushalayim is restored and it goes back to what it once was, or the new Yerushalayim that's going to be with Mashiach and the like. So, yes, we're yearning, and yes, we want, but where does that yearning come from? Only because even here you could feel. And since that over here you could feel it, so that means that you are able to know there's so much more than you have over here. Rav Dessler writes in the Michtam Eliyahu that you have to know that when you travel, he's talking about Bizman Hazeh in our generation, when you travel from America, or he was in England at the time, or Europe, to Eretz Yisrael, don't think that the way in which you daven in America is going to work in Eretz Yisrael. Don't think that the Emunah of America is going to be good enough Emunah in Eretz Yisrael. Meaning, he writes like this: the spiritual kelim, the vessels that you have acquired here, outside the land of Israel, they're good for Tarzana. They're good for America. It's good for New York, for Baltimore, for Lakewood. It's good for that. But Eretz Yisrael is a different world of Ruchnius. And if you want to be able to receive the real true Ruchnius of Eretz Yisrael, you must expand and elevate your kelim, your vessels. It's like if I have a cup that holds only 8 ounces, so if I go to somebody, they want to give me 12 ounces, the cup's not going to hold 12 ounces. But if I now produce a cup of 12 ounces, I can hold the 12 ounces. In America, the amount of ruchnis that we can get, it's 8 ounces. In Eretz Yisrael, it's a big gulp. It's like 64 ounces, at least. If you bring an 8-ounce cup and Hashem's trying to pour in all the ruchnis that is there, it's not going to work. You're only holding by this. But if you open up the kli, the vessel, and you elevate it to a new level of ruchnias and kedusha, then the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael is able to go inside of there. And so since I feel the presence of Hashem over here, that's why I continue yearning for more. Now, says the 4th verse. Well, actually, maybe let's see over here, Rav Gamliel Rabinovich. And he writes like this: on these words of Nichse v'gam kol nafshi lechasvus Hashem, I have this desire to get to the courtyards of Hashem, libi u'basar yiranenu el kel chai, that my heart and my flesh sings out to Hashem. So Rashi writes over here on these words, Kama ahuvos v'chavivos mishchanei secha, how beloved and desired is your Mishkan Eisecha, is your dwelling place, Hashem. Nichsafa, nechmada, it's so pleasant. Kolsa nis'ave, I have a strong burning desire to get there. So he writes like this, Libi ubesari mispalim al kach LaHashem Yisbarach Tamid, and therefore my heart and my flesh are davening to Hashem constantly that I should get there, to that place that I want to be. And Rav Gamliel writes like this, I'm telling you, this is like what we need to hear on Shivasa B'Tammuz. Every person should take the following musar to themselves. The singer of this psalm is saying, because of his tremendous yearning and his great desire to see the building of the Beis HaMikdash, he was davening to Hashem all of the time. Please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, build the Beis HaMikdash. Yirad kama shu rochayk minyan abakasha leminyan Beis HaMikdash. If we will make what's called a spiritual accounting and ask ourselves, how much do we daven every day that Hashem should build the Beis HaMikdash? How much of a yearning, while you're on Amazon.com and it's Prime Day and you're so excited for Prime Day, and suddenly everything that you never even thought of buying in your life suddenly ends up in your cart. And then you ask your husband, it's okay? Whatever you want, dear, go ahead. And the next thing you know, the boxes are just flying in one after the other. You're like, wow, an electric potato peeler, unbelievable. I could never imagine. It's so incredible. I never have to peel potatoes again. Or you see all the other wonderful things that you brought in your cart over there. While you're doing that, were you yearning for Yerushalayim Yirah Kodesh? While you're planning your summer vacation, while you're planning your...
Is it really electric potato peelers?
I'll send you the link, okay? Yeah, while we are planning our great summer vacations that have come upon us, and we're deciding, should we fly, should we drive, hotel, Airbnb, where we're going to go, what we're going to do, the amusement parks, and this, and the fun, and the sun. While we're doing all of that, are we yearning to go back to Eretz Yisrael to be in Yerushalayim Yirah Kodesh? I'm not saying not have a vacation. Kids are expecting vacation, have a vacation. I'm not saying don't buy stuff from Amazon.com. You're going to buy stuff from over there. They're taking over the world. You can't even go to the store anymore. But this fact that we do it and we don't think about Yerushalayim, that's what he's saying over here. Make a cheshbon nefesh. Think to yourself. And you have to ask yourselves, I'm so far away from being someone that is asking on a constant basis for the Beis HaMikdash. I wonder if in my whole life I ever had one prayer that was in the right way that showed that I'm really yearning for the Beis HaMikdash. And even if one time in my life I would be zeich, I would merit to have that special tefillah where I actually was yearning for the Beis HaMikdash, you have to think to yourself, nevertheless, still, Hashem doesn't have a house to dwell in. Which is the worst of it all. You know, I always think during this time of the year, we live in the land of, there might be more homeless people than there are people in homes in Los Angeles right now. They are everywhere. Everywhere you turn, everywhere that you go, there are homeless people. But you know what? It's to remind us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is homeless as well. When you see that guy with the sign that says, anything helps, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying the same thing. Anything helps. One extra mitzvah, one extra tzedakah, one extra kavan in tefillah, one extra krechs in the middle of davening. Oi, there's no Yerushalayim. One little thing, says Hashem. Anything you do, it helps. Just give it to me. Now we sit there, we pretend we don't see them. In the beginning, we all felt so bad, and we're like, we're the Jewish people, we're so benevolent, we're so nice. In the beginning, when we saw that it was getting out of hand, so we used to roll down the window, slip the dollar bill out, give them a blessing, and go on our way. Now we just drive, we just pretend we don't see them. You pull into like the center lane in the freeway because you don't want to be on the left, because if you're on the left, you're going to get too close to them that are on the... So we're like in the center lane, and we're like kind of like looking off in the other direction. We're like trying to look like we're busy. We don't want to look at them, because if we look, then we're going to see their face. We might actually feel bad. And if we feel bad, then we're going to have to give them $1. Says like, oh, that's me. I'm the homeless man at the end of the freeway that you're trying not to look at. Says like, oh, look at me. I'm 2,000 years, I don't have a house. 2,000 years, I'm walking around with a sign. I need a miracle. Please be a kind individual, help me. And therefore, says Gamliel Rabinovich, even if you had a prayer once, keep in mind Hashem is still not in his home. He's homeless, Rahman al-Islam, which is the worst of it all. And really, it doesn't even bother us. Doesn't bother us. Hashem is homeless. Do the homeless bother you? Yeah, they bother you. You want them out of here. But you say, wow, sometimes you go on vacation to like another state. Wow, it's so nice. It's so clean here. There's no homeless. Yeah, because nobody else has the weather of Los Angeles, California. They all want to be here. But we want to get rid of them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that's what you think about homeless people. What about me? Does it bother you that I don't have a home for 2,000 years? Nobody could build it. I can't bring Mashiach. Nothing. I'm wandering around the world. Wherever the Jewish people go in Galus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes in exile together with us. I was in Poland, I've been in France, I've been in Spain, and now I'm in America. You think Hashem likes America? I don't think he likes America too much. And he's stuck here, because we're here. And therefore he writes that we have to begin to understand. It should bother us. How much have we actually cried properly over the tsar, over the pain that the Shechina has, that he doesn't have a home? If only all of these years Klal Yisrael would have felt the pain, realized that Hashem is homeless, davened and cried and begged HaKadosh Baruch Hu to change the situation, we would have experienced the Gula Shlema years ago. But all of our worries, we're really only worried about how come the Amazon is taking 4 days when it usually comes overnight. I don't understand. What's the problem over here? Those are our concerns and those are our worries. At the real worry and the real concern is supposed to be over the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has disappeared from Yerushalayim. There is no Beis HaMikdash. There's just this big golden dome that is sitting there for the entire world and everyone's eye to see. What does the Eibishter want? He wants to come home, but we have to let him home. And the more that we feel that pain, and the more that we yearn for that, and the more that we look for that, the more HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make his way back, and the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt, and we'll be Zeichen the Mashiach coming Be'ez Hashem. Says Rav Hirsch further, Gam Tzibur, Pasuk Daled, Gam Tzipor Matzah Bayis, the bird finds his house again. Udror Kain Law, and the swallow finds its own nest. Doesn't find any nest, it finds its own nest. Asher Shosef Recheha, the nest where it sheltered its young. Es Mizbechesecha Hashem Tzvokais Malki Velokai, so too, your altar is Hashem, my King, my God. That's where I would like to get back to. Just as the bird finds his way home, I also want to find my way home. My home is not in California, my home is not in Lakewood, my home is not in Borough Park. That's not my home. My home is not Square. That's not my home. My home is Yerushalayim. My home is Beis HaMikdash. That's where I belong. And just as the bird knows how to get back, I'd also like to get back. Says Rav Hirsch, this beautiful idea. The bird returns to the same house that it was in. and indeed the exact same nest. His yearning for his own home impels him to seek and find again the same places where he had given life to the most precious treasures, and where he sheltered, nursed, and nurtured them. There was a mother bird, and she laid eggs, and they were in that nest. And she sat there, and she incubated them, and she warmed them, and she watched them as they hatched. And she went, she got some worms, and she got some little things for them to eat, and she fed them water, and she raised them until they were ready to go fly on their own, and they flew away. And then the mother goes, she flies away, and she goes off someplace else, but she ends up coming back to the exact same nest that she had built herself, to the nest that she bore her eggs in, to the nest that she hatched her young little chickies in. Why? Says Rav Hirsch, just like the bird, that's embedded inside of her, that's what she wants to go back to, because that represents her life. It represents the continuity. Whether birds think about this or not, but it's the link in the chain. It's the next generation. So too, says Rav Hirsch, we are drawn to Hashem's altar, His Mizbeach, to the places of the birth and cultivation of all the great and noble spiritual and moral creations, which we have brought forth while we followed Hashem, our King, our God. When there was a Beis HaMikdash, when there was a Mizbeach, when you could bring korbanos, when you could gather there 3 times a year, when you could hear the beautiful songs of the Leviim and watch the Kohanim do all of their avodah, their service in the Beis HaMikdash, that was the birth of Klal Yisrael. That was who we are as a nation. It started in the Midbar, in the Mishkan, and it transferred itself into Eretz Yisrael, into the Beis HaMikdash. That's our nest. That's our life. That's the embrace of the Shechina raising us and cultivating us and incubating us with His Kedusha and His Emunah and His Bitochen and Dveikos in Hashem. And therefore, just as the bird knows, it has that homing device inside, it knows how to get back to where it came from, every Jew ultimately knows how to get back to where they came from. This is tshuva. How do you have someone who's a Baal tshuva? They don't know anything what it means to be a Jew. How did they become a Baal tshuva? It's in there. The device, the mechanism that brings a person back to where they once came, where they once were, it's all in there. The Jew returns home. That's tshuva, is returning home. Those that were never religious, they became religious. How'd they get back home? Because it's all in there. So too, Klal Yisrael in the Gullus, far, far, far away. But really what we're yearning for is to go back to where we belong. It's 2,000 years. How should we know what it means? No, the heart and the soul of every Jew should be yearning for that. Rav Gamliel Rabinovich is very sharp in his criticism over here, and he says that think to yourself, how much do you really yearn? How much does it really bother you? That's 2,000 years already. There is no Beis HaMikdash. You know, we go to Eretz Yisrael and we sit by the walls of the Kaisel and we do the virtual, I don't know if you ever did the virtual movie that they show you of what it used to look like over there, and it's so fast, so real. And then you take it off and you go buy yourself what's the ice cream shop? Kafetzet. You buy yourself a big ice cream, this big, because it's a boiling, destroying hot day over there. Where's the yearning for the Beis HaMikdash? You just saw Kohanim bringing korbanos and you heard the song of Leviim. And the next, you take it off and let's go get some big ice cream cones and get for everybody. Says Rav Hirsch, Rav Gamliel Rabinovich over here, says, I'm in a good...
Painful.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be painful. That's this time of the year. It's supposed to hurt a little bit. We're supposed to realize that we're missing the most essential thing to our lives, and that's what's causing the whole disarray of Klal Yisrael in our own lives, in the communities, everything that's going on. There's no Beis HaMikdash. That's the pain. And the fact that we don't yearn it enough, we can work on it during this time. Every single Jew has it inside of them, they can work on it during this time. You have to spend a little quiet time. You have to turn off the phone. You have to just sit with the Tehillim. You have to sit with a sefer, a book that's going to speak about what it was like in the days of the Beis HaMikdash, what it is that we're missing. Maybe you'll listen to a shiur that will inspire you, something to do that will allow us during these 3 weeks to flex those muscles, to open up our hearts a bit more, to be able to feel the yearning for that which we don't have anymore. Says Rav Hirsch, we recognize that we always were and we still continue to be HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chosen people, even in the Golus, even far away. But again, as we're pointing out, that's why we want to get back to the Beis HaMikdash, because it's so much more real over there. And then he speaks about this bird's nest. And the bird's nest, he says, is that each soul builds its own nest, as it were in the house of Hashem himself. In the house of Hashem, there's assigned to each individual his own special task of purification, devotion, and upward striving in accordance with the particular nature of his personality. Every single one of us is an individual. HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed and created each of us differently than the rest. And if we identify who we are and what we are, if we understand the nature of our personality, of our character, if we understand the yearnings that we have inside of our neshamas, what it is striving for, so then in the Beis Hashem, in the house of Hashem, that is where you are able to develop yourself and your strengths and your abilities the most. The awareness of the duty to discharge these tasks endears the house of Hashem to everyone in his own special way. Meaning, whatever I know about myself, whatever I could try to accomplish here, I have to recognize, if there'll be a Beis Hashem, a house of Hashem, if there'll be a Beis HaMikdash, if the world will come back to perfection the way it's supposed to be, I will be able to accomplish so much more. I will be able to bring so much more of my potential into reality, which I simply cannot do in the Golus. There's too many barriers. There's too many klipos, as we call them, too many shells that are covering us up. There's too much distraction. As the Gemara says, there's too much sa'or shabeisa, there's too much leavening that's in the dough. There's too much Yetzer Hara in this world. It's too much. And Alpha became with all of that, everybody has what to be proud of in their life for your spiritual accomplishments. But there's so much more that we could accomplish if only there's going to be a Beis HaMikdash in all of its purity back. Yes?
I thought that once the Beis HaMikdash comes, I assume that means Mashiach's come.
Yes.
That we are the level where you've gotten is where you've gotten.
Right. So I thought that's the question you're going to ask. So it's a very good question. The question is that according to most of the opinions that we have in Yemei HaMashiach, when Mashiach will come, wherever you got to in life, that's where you're going to be. Now, even if we say that that is true, that means that you're not really going to be able to grow so much when Mashiach will come. But everything that you accomplish, the reward that you're going to receive when Mashiach will come is that your efforts are going to be translated and converted into much higher levels of spirituality than you have in this world. Whatever your most spiritual moment in your life up until this point has ever been, whatever it was, whether it was walking your children down to the chuppah, whether it was davening by the kaisel, whether it was a mitzvah that was so hard for you to do and you overcame the Yetzer Hara and you did it anyway, whatever the greatest moment of your life was, and you felt a surge of connection to Hashem, you should know that when Mashiach will come, all of the experiences in Ruchnius, everything you had, are going to be amplified in your connection to Hashem. And that we're saying, without the Beis HaMikdash, we can't even appreciate. Meaning, if you would know what it meant to do a mitzvah that you do every single day, If you would know what's going on in Shemaim when you wash your hands in the morning, when you wake up and say Moda Ani, if you would know, you would be inspired by washing your hands every single day. If you would know the value of saying a bracha on your first cup of coffee in the morning, and you would just say that bracha and understand what it means, Shahakol Niya Bidvaroi, and you would know what's going on in Shemaim with malachim, with angels and everything, and how they're clinging and listening to every single word that you say, and answering Amen, and you would know that. You'd never look at a cup of coffee again the same way. You'd never think about a small bracha like Shakol in the same way. It would be like an experience. But we don't feel that way. But when we're going to get to Eretz Yisrael, when there's going to be a Mashiach, when that's going to come back, so then everything is going to become reality again. It's going to be like every day it's going to be like Ne'ilah. Everybody knows Ne'ilah counts. Everybody's in it at that moment. We don't want to waste the moments. Everything we do could be like an Ne'ilah. That's the famous story that we always tell the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim was crying at the end of one year, and he was berating himself, Yisrael, you wasted 11 minutes this year. Because the Chavetz Chaim understood the value of every single minute of life, what you could accomplish in those moments. And therefore, don't let them slip away from you. Here we're saying that Klal Yisrael acknowledges and they recognize, we're able to know that if I could just get back to that place, if there'll be Mashiach coming, if there'll be a Binyan Shlishi, a third Beis HaMikdash, so then everything that I experience is going to become so much greater, so much mahaitin. I'll just be able to serve Hashem. No, nothing's going to be holding me back. Now I just want to get to these two last verses over here, and then we'll stop for the day. Asher Yoshev Eisecha Yalu Chasela. Famous words. Asher, fortunate are the ones Yoshev Eisecha that is sitting in your house. Oyed Yalu Chasela. They will continually proclaim your praise. And Asher Yodam Oiz Loibach. Fortunate is the man who Oiz Loibach, whose fortitude is from you. Mesilos bilvavam, and they cherish in the hearts the roads that will lead to on high. Says Rav Hirsch over here, happy are they, constant is the progress of those who are never far away from your house. Meaning that the role of a Jew is not to be, as he writes over here, yoshvim beveisecha, sitting and like dwelling means I'm sojourning there now and then, but rather, I want to spend all of the days of my life in this world in your house, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in that environment of the Beis HaMikdash. And then a person that is constantly shifted Beis Hashem, sitting in the house of Hashem. So he writes over here that it's like their lives are one great song that are proclaiming the revelations of your might Hashem, which means that I want to be someone that is constantly in the house of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not enough just to come and go. I pop into shul, I pop out of shul, I come in, I go out, I do a mitzvah, I don't do a mitzvah. I don't want to be a person that is sporadic. I want to be a person that is constant. The success of everyone's avodas Hashem is the more constant that you are, the more dedication and determination that you have, the more that you have follow through and you keep doing it, then you are Yoshvei Veisecha, you are sitting and dwelling in the house of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a constant basis, not just once in a while. That's what we're trying to achieve. And then he writes that, unfortunately, because that we are so distant from the Beis HaMikdash, so distant from Yerushalayim HaKodesh, from Eretz Yisrael, so it's hard on a Jew. It's hard to be that far. However, what he writes over here is that even in the exile, when we are distant, Oiz Loi Bach, I know that my fortitude is going to come from you, Hashem. I might not be physically in the place where I want to be, but I can be mentally and spiritually as close as possible. With my mind and my heart and my soul, Oiz Loibach, I will get my fortitude, my strength from you, wherever I am. Even though that it's clear that we live in a world of gullahs, of exile right now, it's clear. It's already 2,000 years. So I can't bemoan the fact all day long, I'm not there. Yes, we're saying that we have to learn how to feel that pain, but l'maisa, I'm here. So while I'm here, I have to use whatever I can to find my fortitude in you. And that's the fortunate man. The fortunate person is that even if he finds himself in the exile, he still recognizes HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right here. Think Hashem is not here? Hashem is right here. Even though that he's more behester, he's more hidden than when he is in the revealed state that he will express himself in Eretz Yisrael. Nevertheless, he's still here. I just have to look. I have to look harder, and I have to search. But when I search and I get that strength, so then that will bring me a certain happiness, a joy, a simcha of knowing that even though I'm far, far away, I'm right here together with Hashem. So in Yetz Hashem, we're going to use the next 3 weeks of our lives for what they were meant to be used for during this time of the year, to get more sensitive to the idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, he's homeless. And he's been homeless for 2,000 years. I don't even know if he has a sleeping bag. I'm not sure. I don't think that he goes through the trash can to find old food and the like. It's beneath the dignity of Hashem, which means he's just floating around the world in gullahs, in exile for all these years. And our job is to find him. And our job is to care about him. Our job is to do whatever we can to make him not homeless during this time. Every little bit helps. The more mitzvahs, the more chesed, the more tzedakah, the more rachamim you have on others, the more tefillah, the more tehillim, the more that you have an awareness of the loss of the Shechina and the loss of Eretz Yisrael, the more we give strength to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And in that schus, in Yetz Hashem, we should not be sitting on the floor in Tisha B'Av, but rather we should get back to where we would like to be, and that is with the Beis HaMikdash, b'mheira v'yameinu.